Good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for October the 15th. Today we are reading together in Job chapter 10. Job chapter 10 is the second half of Job's response to the first speech of Bildad. He emphasized in the first half of it in chapter 9 concerning the incredible, mighty, all-powerful nature of God. And now as he transitions into chapter 10, he's going to considering again the characteristics of God. Job at this point is just perplexed. He is perplexed as to how he can be experiencing what he is experiencing. If God is just, how can these things be happening? It doesn't make sense to Job. Yeah, there's an important point that he makes in the middle of this chapter that I want to focus on. I just want to say this as well as we're thinking about these various speeches that are given by these men here in Job's writing: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and then Job himself, even Elihu, who's going to come up here in a little bit. They all speak in some places words of truth. They're all speaking words of truth. I think in every single speech so far, we've noted the times in which they've said things that are true. And yet there's also points in which they say things that just aren't accurate to the situation. So I think that's something we need to recognize and to understand, that when we read things, there are going to be times there are people that we read or people that we listen to say things that are true, but that doesn't mean everything is true. Some things could just be inaccurate, though. Just the same point. They might say some things that are inaccurate, but that doesn't mean everything's inaccurate. Some things might be true. So it's good for us to take the individual parts that are said by people and judge them on their own. Don't take a single portion of a speech or a book or something that is said and say, well, the rest of everything they said is wrong or inaccurate, so therefore this must be as well. That's not true. We need to be able to judge individual statements or points or arguments on their own. That's just a good thing to remind ourselves as people who want to be critical thinkers. We want to be critical thinkers. What I mean by that is we really want to be people who investigate things and who really examine and evaluate the legitimacy of various points or notions. We don't want to just accept everything. We don't just want to reject everything. We want to be good discerners of truth. Listen to what is said and make good decisions about those things. So just something to keep in mind today as we read within this text. With that said, let's get the text up on the screen for us. Let's see here. Job chapter 10. Let's read together here in Job chapter 10 in verse number 1. Job says that I am disgusted with my life. I will give vent to my complaint and speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not declare me guilty. Let me know why you prosecute me. Is it good for you to oppress, to reject the work of your hands, and favor the plans of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh, or do you see as a human sees? Are your eyes like those of a human, or your ears like those of a man, that you look for my iniquity and search for my sin, even though you know that I am not wicked, and that there is no one who can rescue from your power? Your hands, verse number 8, have shaped me and formed me. Will you now turn and destroy me? Please remember that you formed me like clay. Will you now return me to dust? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh and wove me together with bones and tendons. You gave me life and faithful love, and your care has guarded my life. Verse 13, yet you concealed these thoughts in your hearts. I know this was your hidden plan. If I sin, you would notice and would not acquit me of my iniquity. If I am wicked, woe to me. And even if I am righteous, I cannot lift up my head. I am filled with shame and have drunk deeply of my affliction. If I am proud, you hunt me like a lion, and again display your miraculous power against me. You produce your witnesses against me and multiply your anger toward me. Hardships assault me, wave after wave. Why did you bring me out of the womb? I should have died and never been seen. I wish I had never existed. but had been carried from the womb to the grave. Are now my days not few? Stop it. Leave me alone so that I can smile a little before I go to the land of darkness and gloom, never to return. It is a land of blackness like the deepest darkness, gloomy and chaotic, where even the light is like the darkness. Job chapter 10. Again, Job speaking of God. So much of this is set in a courtroom type of setting where God seems to be the accuser and Job is on trial. And then even some instances, I think it's reversed, where God is on trial. Is God being just in his ways? Well, what I want to focus on in this particular chapter is verses 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, 8 through 12, because this speaks of the reality, Job's right understanding that God is creator. Your hands shaped me and formed me. Please remember that you formed me like clay. Did you not pour me out like milk and curled me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh and wove me together with bones and tendons. You gave me life and faithful love, and your care has guarded my life. Job here rightly recognizes that we are, because God determined for it to be so, that we are not here on this earth because of some random chance. This earth in itself is not a result of random chance. It wasn't that the perfect combination of molecules or gases or whatever just randomly hit and combusted, and boom, here was the universe and the solar systems and such. No, it wasn't that we just happened to be here on this planet and the right type of slime somehow found its way from the water onto the land, and it mutated and evolved and grew into a very simplistic type of life form, and that eventually we evolved into what we are today. No, not at all. No. As a famous individual said, it takes much more faith to be an atheist who believes in evolution and the happenstance of evolution than it does to believe in an all-powerful creating God. And certainly I want to recognize that Job here says that this is true. God is the creator. And even more so, God cares for his creation. God cares for his creation. He did create us, just as Job said. He put flesh and bones on us. He gave us skin with flesh and wove together our bones and our tendons. Yes, he did that, but he did not just create us and leave us alone to be. No, he shows his love for us. He shows the care. You gave me life and faithful love, and your care has guarded my life. How has God shown that for us? Well, God has shown that for us through Jesus. Actually, backing up, how has God shown that for Job? Again, Job might not see that very well right here in this moment. We do. We see God bragging on Job, recognizing his faithfulness, allowing the adversary, the accuser, the Satan, to tempt Job, yes, through his struggles, but God continued to say, you cannot take his life. And you're going to see his faithfulness. You're going to see his resiliency because of his faithfulness to me. So we might not see this, but Job might not have seen this, but we see that. We need to see how God continues to care for us today. And he gave us his son to redeem us from our own sin, from the curse of sin and rebelling against God. And because of that blessing of God, because God gave of himself, gave his only begotten son for us, we have hope. So God has, number one, we as beings are not just a result of biological processes that did not have us in mind. No, God created us for a very specific purpose. He created us in his image to be his representatives, to rule, and to represent his rule here in this creation. And even though we have rejected that role, and even though we have worshiped the created rather than the creator, God still sent his son to die for us so we might be redeemed and be restored in the image of his son, the perfect man who was God. And we as men and women are charged to reflect God in everything that we do. And we're able to do so because of Jesus. So God's faithful love is certainly shown for us. His care is shown for us. And we see that here with Job, even though he is in a position where he is just, again, I feel for the guy. I feel for him as he's trying to wrestle and reconcile and understand what is going on. But even within these difficult words that he speaks, where he is very much grieved, we see a great few nuggets of truth. And I hope that what we've talked about today reminds you that we are not a result of nothing, but we are the outcome of God's love, his creative power, and his desire for his creation to be with him for eternity and to represent him while we're here on this earth. So keep that in mind as we go throughout this day today. Remember who you are, that you are someone formed by God. You are someone who God has put skin and flesh on, that he has woven together your bones and your tendons. He is someone who loves you. He's someone who cares for you. He has given you life. He has given you faithful love. And as a result of him doing that, may we be fully devoted to him in all that we do. Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. As always, we'll be reading tomorrow on Sunday, October the 16th, from Job chapter 11, which is going to be Zophar. Zophar is going to speak for the first time. We're going to see his speech in chapter 11, and then just one chapter for him before Job gets back at it in chapter 12. We'll be looking at that on Monday. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Have a great Saturday. Take care, and God bless.